So I go ahead and play it. The crowd just goes crazy. And I'm like, is this real? I mean, it was just, they just went nuts. Hi, I'm George Morel, and this is the story of Let's Groove. When I first started, I kind of started as having fun with music because I'm not a musician. I didn't know anything about keyboards, so I knew it was high in one way and low in the other. When it started, hip-hop started and disco, and then there was underground disco. That was more like the Paradise Garage stuff that we were playing and a lot of underground stuff that never made it to the radios. And that kind of just drove me into the production. The studio I was working at that time was in my home. It was on the second floor. My neighbors hated me because all I did was noise music all day long till 5 a.m. And the only reason why I realized it was 5 a.m. is because the daylight started coming out. So I would sleep, wake up, eat, back to the studio, and I was a machine. I got used to just making music. It was just about creating because I enjoyed it very much. My first record was actually with the late David Cole from CNC Music Factory, and that did pretty well. My next record became gold, and it was being played on the radio. And I remember the first time I heard it, was a car drive by, and I'm like, how did they get my record? But I didn't realize it was already playing on the radio. And I was surprised. I'm like, okay, so I must know something, because the second one is gold record. I didn't know it was that easy to make a gold record. Then after that, I started working with CNC Music Factory. So I did some of the edits in the back from some of the projects. And then I sort of landed at Strictly Rhythm because I had all these music that I didn't know where to put it at. Strictly popped up. And a lot of people don't know, but I did Sir James Special, and that was their second record. And after that, that's when sort of I started A&R for Strictly because they needed another second A&R, and started picking up records. I had all these tracks just sitting around. I didn't know what to do with them because I didn't know who would accept them or who would want them. So I started releasing the series of Morel's Groove. Each one had his face, identity, and so on and so on. So when it got to 4, that's when I started to sort of travel a little bit more. I went to France, and I remember like, oh, it's another scene here. And I started to discover how house music was expanding more and more throughout the world. So when I was in France, I'm like, hey, I want to do a track with French vocals on it. So Morel's Groove on one side had a girl talking in French. I'd done that. And I felt like the record was not finished. I remember clearly I was going to a meeting one day, and I'm getting ready and showering, and I'm singing the bass line in my head. And I'm thinking, where did I hear this before? I don't recall hearing this before, but it just kept looping in my head. It kept looping. I'm late to the meeting, so I'm like, what, let me just put it down before I forget it, because sometimes I'm thinking, I'll remember that later on. BS. It would be gone if I didn't put it down. I was working on something else, so I used part of those drums. I remember I played the bass line on a Juno 106, and I felt like it needed more, so I had the Harman X2, and I overlaid it, and it sounded good, and next thing you know, I get into the groove of it, and I put the little string, and I started arranging it, and within half an hour, it was done. I was using the Atari Computer Hybrid Arts, and there was a section on the screen that if you happen to put the mouse through it, the computer would freeze. So I was always going around it. Just before I was going to save it on disk, I realized I didn't have any disk. I had nothing to save it on. So I'm like, if I leave the computer on, it's going to just crash and freeze, so I'm going to lose it. And during that time, there was a DAT. Everything was recorded in DAT, the digital audio tape. So I found this 30-minute tape, which is, actually, this is it, the original one. And I'm like, let me just put it on the tape, so later on, I'll just come back to it and finish it. So I did it. Tape sat around for a couple of weeks. I'm compiling Morel's Groove Part 4. And I'm like, you know what? It's not finished, but let me just put it on the B-sides, the second track. Not thinking anything of it. In fact, I was trying to hide it. And that's it. So I send it out to mastering. And I was doing all these kind of underground tracks, but I didn't know what to do with them. So I said, this is a small label called Strictly Rhythm. Let me put something out on this label. And they liked it, so they put it out, and it did really good. And they called me, hey, can you do another one? So I did another one. And then next thing you know, they asked me to come on over and work for them, and that's how it turned out to be. And Strictly Rhythm turned out to be Strictly Rhythm. Strictly Rhythm was signing a lot of records, and my records were actually without a contract. It was just my outlet to put stuff out without having to wait for an answer, and another label would like it. It was like free to do whatever I want. But meanwhile, at the same time, I'm signing all these other records to put out a Strictly. And I wish I had contracts, because all the records I did a Strictly, there was no contract. Very, very, very few. The foundation of Strictly was to eventually sell to a major. I was in it for the music. The person that was running Strictly was for the business side of it, but I didn't realize the business side of it because I was just happy that life is good. My bills are paid, I got food on the table, I got my lights on, like, hey, everything is good. I kind of started to realize things were odd when I went to play at an event, because basically I was being always told that my records were not that good as the others. So that kind of had an effect on me, because it was like strange. When I played my records at certain places, I got a good reaction. What really broke the ice was when I get called to play in Switzerland. I arrived in Switzerland in this very fancy hotel. I'm getting this extra treatment, and I'm like, I'm just George, I just want to come make people dance, have a good time, and have fun. I didn't realize how big the event was, but I also didn't realize I was the headliner. I wasn't told. So I finished my set, hand claps, everything, and the next guy, the resident DJ goes, and he goes, oh, you're not gonna play Let's Groove? I'm like, well, I didn't bring it. He goes, oh, I have it. So he gives me Let's Groove to play, and I found it odd and kind of embarrassing that I didn't bring my own record, but since I wasn't counting on Let's Groove to be what Let's Groove is, I didn't think much of it. So I go ahead and play it. The crowd just goes crazy. And I'm like, is this real? I mean, they just went nuts. So I go back, and I'm kind of puzzled, because I was like, I wasn't getting it. It wasn't hitting me yet. And then I go back to the office and says, hey, I play Let's Groove in Switzerland, and the crowd went ballistic. I'm like, oh yeah, like they kind of brushed it off. But that kind of made a scratch in my head, like, what's going on here? So booking started to come, and it was based on Let's Groove, and I couldn't understand it, because the office kept telling me my records are not selling, and that's sort of led to me eventually departing Strictly. Well, the parting ways with Strictly Rhythm was very strange. I always felt like I put all my eggs in one basket, even though I was being called by different labels and, let's say, CD mixes and production, but I sort of put my eggs in the basket because the idea was to sell to a major. There was an agreement Strictly sent to Warner Brothers under the table, but I wasn't told about it. Since I was supposed to get a percentage of the sale of Strictly, obviously a percentage never happened, because when we departed, it was sort of in a very vicious way. About 2 years after, when I ran into someone, a producer from Strictly, he's like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great. He goes, oh, you must be doing amazing with all that money you got from Warner Brothers. I was like, what money? What are you talking about? He's like, well, Strictly sold to Warner Brothers. I was like, oh. That's when everything came into light. I have to take the good with the bad, because in all honesty, I never expected to ever reach the places that I reach, meet the people that I meet. And on the positive note, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here doing this interview. I used to travel 48 weekends out of the year for about 25 years straight, maybe 30. I don't want to sound that old, but I think I am. As glamorous and fun as it was, it also took a toll, because it's a lonely life. You meet a lot of people on the road, but it's just for that moment. And then I would come back home and be like, this place is empty. And I sort of took a break from it because I had an accident, and during that accident, I couldn't walk for a year. And during that year that I need another year to go to rehab to start walking, I'm fine again. Everything is great. So when I try to get back into it, that's when Facebook and MySpace and all this stuff was out. And I was like, holy cow, like everything sort of changed. And so many new DJs, and also the music has changed during that time. And I didn't know where I belonged. And it was the first time I ever felt lost in music. So I'm like, I'm just going to sit back and kind of just do what I like to do. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I started spending a lot of times in Berlin. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool, because I started to listen to electronic in a different way. In New York, you have the soul, and you have the vibe, and Chicago, and the soulfulness. But in Europe or Germany or Berlin, you had the electronic, it was a different soul. And it kind of bit me. And I was like, I really like this. And I've been working on a lot of new music. In fact, I think I have plenty of music now for the next several years. So I'm getting ready to start releasing again. Kind of took off from production for a bit. So now that my mojo is back into production, since I want to make more time into being in the studio and writing, I'm back in full force. When I started to realize what Let's Groove became was basically, I would go to Ibiza, I'd play the record and everyone knew it. So I started to realize like, okay, it's going to be one of those records, like a lot of records that you think that it's only for the moment. But what made it for me more was when I would be in an elevator in Europe and I would listen to dance music versus like in America where you listen to classic music or orchestra music, elevator music, let's say. In Europe was more like house music in the elevator. So I'm in the elevator and I hear Let's Groove and I was like, that's odd. that's very unexpected. I rode up and then rode back down just to like, hey, I can't believe I'm grooving to my own record in the elevator. Meanwhile, people didn't know it was me that made it. And also to see the smile on people's faces when they will know that it was me, the guy behind Let's Groove, and how it made their summer or made their private parties, and they would just come with this big smile and shake me or hug me and so on. So it's a good positive feeling, energy to see that reaction from people years after years after years. I always thought Let's Groove was eventually going to fade out. The beauty about house records is about a feeling. So it never fades out. It comes back. You can always play an old house record or older house record and it's just brings it right back to that moment. I'm grateful and thankful that Let's Groove became a timeless record, let's say. Although I never got any royalties from it, like I mentioned, but the joy that I get from seeing people smile and enjoying it, it's worth the fortune.